Hello guys, welcome to Tech Geek again. Today we are going to learn about REST APIs. Right? We'll also create our own REST API with one of the Python framework, that is Fastapi. Quick summary of what we are going to do is we will first learn what is the REST API actually is. Then we will do the introduction of Fastapi module and other frameworks as well. And then we will create our own REST API in Visual Studio Code. Before we start, let's get on with the booster that I have for you guys.
Watch yourself for 2 weeks. Just watch like you don't know who you are. And notice when you're doing something that you're engaged in. It's like you'll see it. Maybe it's only 10 minutes because your life is pretty out of balance, but you'll see that, oh man, I was engaged in something there for 10 minutes. It's like, why? What did you do that was right, that engaged you? You were in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing for a few minutes. What was it? What were the preconditions? There's this line in the New Testament. Christ says, the kingdom of God is spread across the earth, but men do not see it. And that's what it refers to, is that you wander into paradise now and then when you're engaged, when you're deeply engaged in something, but you don't notice it. You don't think, oh, look, I'm in the right place and everything's working out right now. It means I've got it right somehow. And then I need to practice being there more and more and more. Well, that's the appropriate thing to try to practice. It's to come to a negotiation with that intrinsic sense of meaning and to realize it as a fact rather than just as an opinion or something that's secondary. Because it's not.
Okay, so now what is REST API? I'll explain this with one of the example. Right? Let's suppose you have created a Python application for processing some data, and you also have a REST API deployed on a particular server. Now, what if you want to use that particular Python application to process your file, right? You don't want to install the application in your local machine. So what you can do, you can just call the REST API, give the input as your file, right? And in the backend, what REST API will do, it will process your file and give you the processed output. This is one of the use of REST APIs, but the main functionality why we need REST APIs, let's suppose we have multiple applications in working in a workplace, right? Now you want to use two of the applications together, and you want to use one of the feature of one application in another application, right? So you can replace yourself with the other applications in Python so that the communication will happen via REST API. So this is the main use of REST API, where you can communicate between two programs or software with the use of REST API. Now, to start with the REST API, there are some basic HTTP methods that REST API uses. It says like first of the method is GET. When you want to read some data from REST API, you need to use GET. The second one is POST. You want to input some data, right, to the REST API, and you can use POST method. The third one is PUT or PATCH, where you need to update the existing data or insert something via REST API. You can use PUT or PATCH. And the last one is delete. If you want to delete something, you can do it via delete method. There are multiple Python frameworks available for creating REST APIs. These frameworks will make creation of APIs and handling of APIs very easy, right? I have 5 of them here, which are very well known, like Django, Flask, Pyramid, Falcon, and Fastapi. I personally like and prefer Fastapi because, as the name suggests, it is very fast, and it also provides some additional features which help users to understand the REST API, how it works. So what we are going to do, we are going to create one of the REST API with use of Fastapis. Okay, so as you can see, I have the Fastapi folder and I have main.py already written under it. Right. What we will do for REST API to initiate, we need these two modules to be installed in your environment. Right. First is pip install Fastapi. This is a Fastapi module. Another is uvcon. This uvcon module is for initiate the Fastapi server. Right. We have written the code, but to initiate it or deploy it into a local server or a remote server, we need this uvcon to be installed, right? I'll go through the code. This is the basic implementation of REST API. So what we are doing in the fourth line is we are importing fast API class from this fast API module. We are creating an object of this fast API class, and as you can see, there are many arguments that we can give. We can give debug equal to true or false. We can give title, right? What will be the title of our REST API? We can give the description as well, the version number of our API, like 010, 020, etc. We can give the dependencies on which other functions this particular uh, fast API class depends, right? Then we can also give the callbacks, responses, the type of response, and all that stuff. This is inbuilt in fast API, so it's very useful. For now, we are not giving anything. We want our plain REST API to run, right? So we will keep it blank. Going forward, what we are doing is we are initiating this app object that we have created, right? And we are creating a get method. As earlier, we have seen in introduction that there are multiple HTTP method for REST APIs, right? So out of those, we are for now just implementing the get method, and whatever string I have is my URL, right? So I want to create the home URL, so that's why I have /home, and after that, this is a type of decorator, right? If you don't know about decorator, you can search it online on Google, but this is a kind of a decorator that we are putting before this particular function. So whenever someone hits this home URL, this function will run, right? And this home function, what we are doing, we are just returning a plain string, that is, this is my home page, right? And after that, on the second function or second URL endpoint, what we are doing, we have given home version, right? And there is a variable we have introduced, that's ID, and we are returning this is version ID. We are using this ID parameters from the function to the return type, right? And this is called the use of query parameters in REST API. So this is our simple code, and now let's see how we can create a UVCon server out of this, right? So there is a very simple command for that, that is UVCon, and then your file name, let's say my file name is main colon, and whatever object you have initiated. So I initiated app, so I will put app, and then I need to give host IP address. So in my case, I will give the local host, that is 127.0.0.1, and the port number on where this fast API will run, on which port, right? So for now I will put 8000. You can put anything you want. You can put 2000 as well, but it's ideal to use 8000, 5000, 8080, those kind of ports which are used for web app servers, right? So this is your command that you need to run in the terminal so that your server can initiate. Let's open the terminal and run that command. Okay, I have the terminal open now, and I will just clear everything and I will run my command. Okay, as you can see, everything works fine. The application startup has been completed and UVCon is running on this URL. So what we will do, we will just copy this particular URL and open in into the Chrome of the same machine. For now, what is happening, we have this page shows detail not found, right? And here in the logs of this server, we are seeing 404 not found, right? So if we see the code, we have two endpoints. We have home and home version. So we don't have a simple endpoint like the local host and then port number. Instead, we have this home. If I run that, then I will have this is my home page, whatever I am returning right now, right? And if I run now the version as well, okay, it says something is missing. ID field here we are taking is missing. Right, we'll go through this error, but let me first introduce one more feature of this fast API, right? What we can do, instead of just checking single endpoints every time, right? What we can do, we can initiate this docs endpoint that come by default from fast API, and it is very useful for users to understand what is this API about and what are all the endpoints of the particular REST API, right? It also helps to check which parameter needs to be given on which endpoint. So let's say we expect ID in here, right? But how do we know that we need to give ID to run this particular endpoint? For that, you need this docs helper that can help you guide the REST API inputs. Right? In the first endpoint, it's quite simple. We don't expect any parameters, right? And if you want to try it out, just click on in here and execute. Right? If you execute, we will have our response in the response body and the response code 200. Right? It's a simple endpoint that we just saw in the previous example. Right? The second endpoint that we have is home version. Right? But here, if you see, we expect ID parameter, right? So to try it out, let's say I give ID is equal to 1 and try to execute it. Now, what is my output? My output is this is version 1. Right? This is version, and then whatever the ID is. Now, if I try with ID equal to 2, that the response will also get changed. And now if you see, we also have the request URL in here. So earlier we were just trying home and version, but the actual request URL should look like something like this. It should have the ID as a parameter. So if I just run this particular thing with 101, I'll get the output. This is version 101. Right. Likewise, for now I have just written the simple string, but what you can do, right? You can also return the dictionary or any of the variable that you want. Let's say I want message equal to this is my first message in home page, right? And if I now restart my server, so to shut down the server, you need to press Ctrl C, and to run again, just the same command you need to run. Okay, and now if I refresh this particular thing, the home, try out, this is my home page, because we haven't changed anything in the code. We are returning still the same thing, right? So what I will do, I will return data instead. Okay, I shut this down, start it again, refresh this page, try it out. So you see the response body got changed, and it now has the dictionary into it. So this way you can modify all these things. There is one more thing. We earlier have gone through these all the arguments that we can give, right? For now, if you see in the docs parameter, fast API is coming in here. Okay, so I don't want that. I want my custom name in here. So what I can do, I can put title equal to gig, right? And I will put description equal to this is my REST API, and I reload my server again and I refresh this. Now you see we have TechGeek instead of fast API, and in the description we have this is my REST API. So likewise, you can modify the description and how your docs page will look like. Remember, when you create a REST API, you will only share these docs to another application or the application owner or the user itself, right? You cannot just say that I have created my REST API and these are all the endpoints, but you need all this stuff to be highlighted to users or another application. So that's the reason I find Fast API very useful and easy to work on. I hope you learned something new from this video, and if you did, please share it to your colleagues and keep following the channel for such videos.